As those companies succeed, and our goal is to make as many of them successful as possible, as those companies continue to exceed and they are.
Hello and welcome to our BioNeex interview. BioNeex is an online peer-to-peer platform for early-stage licensing and collaborative partnerships. In other words, BioNeex provides a user-friendly infrastructure for preclinical and clinical stage biotech companies to display their novel compounds available for licensing and co-development partnerships on a global scale. On the other hand, the platform offers pharmaceutical companies a direct access to such innovative compounds, which will enable them to fill their R&D pipeline. I'm pleased today to have our guest, Executive Chairman and Founder of Defined Health, now known as Cello Bioconsulting, Ed Saltzman. Dear Ed, please let me introduce you with few words and Cello Bioconsulting. Thank you. Founded more than 25 years ago, Cello Bioconsulting is a leading biotech and pharmaceutical business development strategy firm whose clients include a mix of pharma, biotech investment companies based in US, Europe, Asia, Israel. In 2017, Ed led the sale of Defined Health to Cello Health. He possesses vast knowledge of pharmaceutical and biotechnology industry, accumulated over Defined Health more than 2 decades of consultancy. Ed is a well-recognized speaker on industry issues, especially related to licensing and business development field. He has spoken over the past 20 years to large audience at Defined Health's Cancer Progress Conference and numerous industry conferences. Ed has presented targeted strategy briefings to numerous board of directors, executive management committees, and licensing and business development teams of large biotech pharma companies, as well as leading life sciences venture capital firm. Ed serves as a venture advisor to the Israel Biotech Fund. He's on the board of the directors of Biotech Pharma. He's a recipient of the Frank Burness Mentoring Award and member of the Licensing Executive Society and the New York Pharma Forum. He's a graduate of New York University. In a few weeks, Cello Bioconsulting is hosting the 30th Annual Cancer Progress Conference from May 7 to 8 in New York City, which is the primary cancer conference for industry leaders. So please welcome, dear Ed. I would be very, very curious to know the story about Cello Bioconsulting, previously Defined Health. Tell us more about the company, vision, and values. Thank you.
Thank you, Sambat, very, very much. So let me start with Cello Health Bioconsulting, and actually right now you'll read Cello Health Bioconsulting, previously known as Defined Health.
Exactly.
So for many people recognize the name Defined Health as a preeminent strategy consulting firm, particularly focused on early stage biotech companies. Our key differentiator is the fact that we combine strategy with science, or we bring the strategy to the science. We have a focus in the practice of working very, very extensively with early stage companies. In many cases, these are companies that are preclinical stage. They haven't yet reached the clinic. In some cases, they are into phase 1, but the vast majority of companies we work with are pre-proof of concept. That is a time in a company's evolution when it is critical to be able to make decisions strategically to drive value in the organization and to drive the value of the company. These decisions include understanding in an objective way the value of the platform, where to translate that therapeutic value, what indications to be seeking, what are the broad issues that will be represented by the market access and reimbursement environment that we increasingly are facing and gets more and more challenging every day. So a wealth of issues need to be considered by science-based companies pretty much right out of the starting gate, and that's our business. Cello Health is a firm that is as you pointed out, a global firm that is well established in providing professional services across the spectrum of functions in pharmaceutical companies. Cello has very large offerings in medical communications in particular and in market research, and also has a consulting group based out of the UK that focuses on late stage companies, pharmaceutical companies already on market, companies preparing to go to market, and works pretty extensively with companies that are post proof of concept. So it's a wonderful marriage when Cello came to us and proposed that we be a part of them. We've been excited to be part of them for a little over 2 years now, and really looking at pushing forward this vision together of the early stage, our focus on the early stage biotech, and as those companies succeed, and our goal is to make as many of them successful as possible, as those companies continue to exceed, and they are having the fortunate situation of getting closer to market, there'll be a seamless transition to our colleagues. So that's a bit of the vision for where we are, and a bit of a thought about where we hope to be going.
Great. It's actually very interesting to know, like Cello Health. I believe it's over 500 people. It's pretty big and well recognized as well. And in US, a lot of people knew Defined Health as you mentioned, focus more biotech industry. But as you mentioned, I believe now both companies can kind of get a synergy really from each other expertise. And it also covers the clients that came to the early stage to Cello Bioconsulting. Then later on, even in the commercial area, they can stay under the same roof, right? It's always
correct.
Yeah, that makes also, I think, in now a little bit shifting consulting industry area pretty much competitive, because as you see recent mergers in this area, it keeps Cello Health overall with the acquisition of Defined Health on the real competitive.
Yes, correct.
So then I'll try to like a little bit that you emphasize more like what makes different Cello Bioconsulting. Is there something else that you can add, like to make that really for our audience more clear?
Sure, I'd like to. Like many consulting firms, many consulting firms use similar tools, okay, to go about their work and produce their analysis. We use all the tools that consulting firms normally do. We conduct extensive market research. We have substantial outreach to key opinion leaders across pretty much every therapeutic space. We anchor that in about 25 years of experience that's deep in particular therapeutic areas and wide across the therapeutic space. We're incredibly knowledgeable about pipeline, about competitive situations. So we really do leverage a tremendous knowledge-based platform. But I don't think that's what makes us different, although I think that makes us strong. What makes us different is the unique, or at least highly unusual focus, client-centric focus in working with early-stage science-based companies. So our company is staffed very extensively scientifically. Most of our senior leadership, with notable exception being me, most of our senior leadership has come up through the bench. Worked for biotech companies, worked in academia, and is very, very, very scientifically deep and scientifically sophisticated. This allows us to be able to speak scientific language very early in the evolution of our client companies. It's not unusual for us, for instance, although it would be unusual for many firms to be involved with companies literally straight out of the initial funding round, all right? When the science has been vetted, the management team may have been vetted by the investors, but the strategy has not been established and it hasn't been thought through. Those are the critical moments where value can start to be created or value can frankly be lost. And we believe our focus on that, our laser-like focus on the early stage of these companies' evolution is truly differentiating. We also think that the idea of being able to get people to understand, to get not only our clients to understand, but ultimately to be the force that sits between the companies and their challenge to raise the valuation of those companies prior to the next financing round. It is very, very, very helpful to have the degree of strategic sophistication that we have and we can bring to that task.
Yeah, that's really great. Let me also add from my side, from outside of the company, what in my belief differentiates Shelved Bioconsulting. I mean, I know a couple of very large, maybe the largest consulting companies in the industry, and most of them, I don't think they really provide as much strategic from very early stage direction and really support as the Shelved Bioconsulting does. That's my belief. I think that can also confirm a lot of your previous clients.
Yeah, absolutely, Sabat. It's absolutely the case. There are a couple of other things that I think are probably important to point out. One of them is again, and I mentioned this before, but to expound on this for a minute, the deep both breadth and depth of experience across the therapeutic space. Oncology is these days, and it probably shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, our largest therapeutic area. We have a deep-seated base of expertise in oncology. That practice is led and anchored by Jeff Bachman, who has been one of the thought leaders in immuno-oncology, particularly with issues to strategy from the early days of immuno-oncology, pre-pharma companies realizing they all had to wrestle with immuno-oncology strategy. We're doing the same thing, however, right now in a practice we call advanced therapeutics, which is focused on helping gene therapy companies, cell therapy companies, companies that are pursuing unconventional or non-traditional, let's just say, therapeutic platforms to develop the next generation of therapy. They all pose issues, they all pose strategic challenges that come on very, very early in development, whether it be a rare disease company that's trying to focus on where it's going to get its next generation of programs from, trying to understand the impact of some of these new therapeutic platforms in the area of rare disease, for instance. So we continue to focus on building depth in these practices, but one of the things that's really differentiating is the senior leadership team here. The senior leadership team here has worked together for a very, very long time. It includes not only Jeff Bachman, but Mike Rice, our lead of our therapeutic area. Obviously, Ginger Johnson, who is our CEO, but headed up our CNS area for many, many years. And we have deep therapeutic area leadership, deeply experienced in all of the therapeutic areas. And I think that's more than a little bit differentiating. It's a powerful team that works together.
Yes, yes. And I think that's the most important assets of the consulting firms, the people. And I believe by being acquired from Cello Health, defined health philosophy and really human value is staying with that. It has been not disrupted. And if it was changed, that it changed more, adding value to this expertise that you have in-house.
I completely agree.
So as we're speaking about one of the core activities, oncology of Shelved Bioconsulting, we know also that you are, as I mentioned, organizing now in a few weeks Cancer Progress, one of the primary leading oncology conference for industry leaders. And can you a little bit tell about this story behind that? How you guys got such a conference merged with defined health business, and what's like all this, aspiration around that?
Sure, Sambat, I would love to tell that story. So actually, the history of Cancer Progress, which is, as you pointed out, an annual conference that pulls together one of the most unusual and I think powerful mixes of attendees and panelists from different elements of stakeholders within the cancer universe. So not only many of the household name KOLs in both immuno-oncology and oncology in general, but academics, payers, care providers, patient advocacy groups, pretty much every stakeholder that's involved in cancer, to really make a dialogue over 2 days, of deeply scientific and strategic panel discussions about progress that we're making in the field, what are the limitations to the progress we're making in the field, what are the realistic timelines for tackling some of those challenges. It's a fantastic meeting. Before the meeting became part of Defined Health and then part of Cello Health Bioconsulting, we were actually frequent attendees of this meeting. We had attended it every year, and we had noted with great joy that some of the world leaders in biotech, who is our target audience, were actually sitting in the audience with us. So we realized this was a special meeting, and when the opportunity came to acquire the meeting from the company that was running the meeting for more than 20 years at the time, we jumped at the opportunity, and we're thrilled to have it be part of our mix. But it's a big undertaking. It's an exciting undertaking. It involves a lot of different people in the company, and it showcases, I think, a little bit about the way we think and our thought leadership in what is our largest therapeutic area, which is oncology, and it's about half our business, and also the most important therapeutic area in terms of investors and pharmaceutical companies.
And knowing that you had having such a deep expertise on licensing and business development, which is, I think, one of the core business activities or early stage biotech companies, maybe a little bit can tell on that aspect, as well as what's going to audience expect from that part, so they can come there, they will be inspired, they are going to contribute to their licensing and business development activities.
Sure. One thing I think it's important, very important to point out in case I forget, so I'll do it right away, is that this meeting is highly interactive. So despite the fact that the meeting is not set up specifically for a licensing and business development crowd, there is a pretty significant representation from licensing and business development, both in biotech and in large pharma, as you know, both in the audience and on the panels. There's ample opportunity to network with some of the really established thought leaders in the space, and obviously to take time to set up meetings in and around the conference, which is held in New York, which is a very good place to set up meetings. So, specifically from the licensing and business development standpoint, it is so important to understand what the themes are of what is happening next. Where are we going next? For instance, all of these categories. Where are we going in adoptive cellular therapy next? Where are the next series of innovation going to come from? Where's the next deals? Most importantly, what are the large pharma companies thinking? What are they thinking about the space? What are investors thinking about these opportunities? These conversations actually get very, very deep. They get very stimulating. Sometimes they get heated. And I'm actually very pleased to be on the morning of day 2 moderating a panel that we call the Value Panel, which is actually one of the first panels introduced in the cancer field to specifically take on the issues of market access, pricing, and reimbursement of cancer drugs. Because that's an area of the field that, as marvelous as the science is, and as exciting as the progress we're making, what we all, of course, understand is if we can't get the drugs to the patients, and the patients are not able to afford the drugs, then all of this is not going to be for any good for anyone. So at the end of the day, I'm really excited about leading that panel with some of the leaders in that field as well.
Yes, that's great. It's absolutely great. So I think we will summarize our discussion as it was planned. I want to also once again mention to our audience that Ed is one of the visionary leaders in the industry, that he recognized as a spotter who can really see the trends of the industry, where he's heading, and how it's going to be impact overall the biotech pharma industry. So knowing this adds leadership in the industry and overall the Cancer Progress as a conference, I think it's really amazing place to be. As we know, small company, hearing from our own biotech clients. I want to once again remind our audience that the 30th annual Cancer Progress Conference going to be from May 7 to 8 in New York City. It's one of the primary cancer conference for industry leaders, and that's going to be wonderful meetings and active discussions. Yeah, thank you very much for everybody being today with us. Dear Ed, thank you. We are really delighted to have you today and see your leadership vision to this wonderful discussion.
Thank you, Sambat. I really appreciate it. I appreciated the opportunity to share some thoughts with you and with the audience, and I look forward to seeing as many as possible of you at our Cancer Progress meeting. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.